Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with another one of the fun little formats that we have in Arena. This was called Nox's Cascade Constructed. I actually like this format. This was kind of fun. This was my first try. Went 5-0, and disclaimer alert, everyone and their mother thinks that mono red is the way to go. So of course, when you read a meta, that's what I first I put down a land destruction deck. I thought land destruction would be pretty cool for this format because if you can get up to the 4 mana, then you kill a land and then get something off of it. So if you have a good curve of a lot of 3-drops that are pretty decent, and then can use those 3-drops to cascade into 2-drops. So like gift of well, we'll look at it in a second, what I was doing with the land destruction. Unfortunately, I don't think land destruction can compete versus the mono red aggro, which is everywhere. I mean, it's almost all the mono red. Like this was 4, and I had 4 mono reds and 1 deck that was farming the mono reds. It was a Dawn of Hope deck, and the Dawn of Hope was the easiest matchup by far. The problem with the red deck is they couldn't go directly to my face. They had to kill my creatures, and the Thorn Lieutenant was the key card. So not going to show any gameplay. We might stream this later if the store, after FNM, if the store slows down. But anyway, let's go ahead and claim the prize here and see what I get. An Angorath Flame Chained and a Merfolk Branchwalker. Okay, so let's go over to the decks here. This is the deck that I built, the ElfBall Cascade. Now, first of all, I don't have... I'm out of rares. This is the problem with MTG Arena. It's a rares is what you need. And unfortunately, I thought I got a little bit careless with my rares, and I didn't realize I didn't have Sunpetal Groves. So, of course, you'd want 2 more Sunpetal Groves. I'm actually running 18 lands, because the way that Arena works is going to give you the best of 2 hands. And we also have a ton of mana accelerant in this deck. We're also going to be running a 1 Mox Amber. So the 1-drops we're going to be running is the Llanowar Elves, Pelt Collector, and Flower to Flourish. These are going to find the Mox Amber on turn number 1. I mean, the odds that you have a 1-drop is very, very high. And then if you can get the Mox Amber out, that just kind of thins your deck. And we actually do have 6 cards in the deck that can use the Mox Amber. So I think it's worthwhile putting 1 in. Flower to Flourish is good in this deck because you can use it as a win condition or early on just to find lands. And like I said, we're running a very low land count of 18 lands. So the Flower Flourish is going to help us get to that early lands that we need. It can give us a couple decisions whether we get the plains or if we want to go for Steel Leaf Champion, whether or not to get the forest or the plains. The Pelt Collector is pretty good in this just because of how Cascade works in this deck. And, excuse me, my phone is... Alright, so... where was that before I was rudely interrupted by #BlameZach? So anyway, we have the Pelt Collector at, the 1-drop is really good in this deck because you can Cascade first, so the Pelt Collector will come into play, and then we'll get the counter off of whatever Cascade it is. So, of course, it doesn't quite work off Elvish Clancaller, but it does work off the Thorn Lieutenant. So, Thorn Lieutenant can hit Pelt Collector and then come in as a 2/2 because the Thorn Lieutenant will actually hit, or the Pelt Collector will actually hit first, and then the Thorn Lieutenant will come in. How Cascade works on kind of the stack. So, the Thorn Lieutenant is really good in this deck because it's insanely good with being able to utilize mana later on. And with the 6, I mean, you get up to 6 mana, so it can be a threat by itself, but it usually is going to leave back a 1/1 body. This card is miserable for mono red to deal with. The Clancaller, of course, is really good because this is part of the ElfBall strategy is just to pump up all our elves. We have another lord in here called Radiant Destiny. I'm running 2 of them. I think 2 is the right number, and it actually can be found off the Sumala Woodshaper. We'll get to that in a second. The Emmara Soul of the Accord, I don't know if this is something that wants to go up more. I just ran 2 because I had to cut something, and this was the card that I cut. I guess you could cut Radiant Destiny, but Radiant Destiny is pretty good in this deck. It does feel like you want another Anthem type effect, and I think Radiant Destiny is perfect because it gives them Vigilance, so you can attack in and then use the Mana Dorks later on to tap for mana. It is a non-bow with Emmara, but we're not really too concerned with the white soldiers. Again, I don't even know if Emmara wants to be in here. You could even go into red and run some of the other elf. There's 2 legendary elves in red. That could definitely be a decent little card. And I also thought the Goreclaw would be a okay card. And let me explain why Goreclaw would be good in this deck. Let's see how you spell claw. Mr. Claw. Goreclaw doesn't really reduce anything in your entire deck, but whenever it attacks, creatures get +1/+1 and trample if they have power 4 or greater. This is one of the problems with this deck is well, it's not really a problem because eventually you're going to go over the top of your opponents anyway. But trample is kind of nice in this deck if you're going up against decks that chump block like crazy. And so Goreclaw coming out will give those cards trample. And like I said, if you just have a couple Elvish Clancallers out or a Radiant Destiny, all of your creatures are going to be at that 4 power, or your Pelt Collectors get huge, and then they're going to get +1/+1 trample when they attack. So Goreclaw might want to be in here instead of Emmara. Emmara being the elf, though, I'm not quite sure. We'll test around with it and see if that's the right route to go. But that's another decent legendary creature that can be put in this deck. It's 4 mana, so it cascades into like Steelleaf Champion just fine, or Radiant Destiny. And again, it already has the synergy with the Steelleaf Champion. You could make the argument for Ghalta because you can get Ghalta out very quickly too off like a Steelleaf Champion. Right now, I'm not using Ghalta either. So let's take a look at Ghalta. Ghalta will get reduced, and it's like it's going to cascade. It can cascade for anything at this point. But Ghalta costs X less, where X is the total power of creatures you control. So an Elvish Clancaller and like a Llanowar Elf is really good because that's 3 power right there. If you have something else out, you're going to be able to add mana plus reduce the cost of Ghalta. However, I just don't think Ghalta is necessary at the moment either. Like, again, we could burn like a 1 of Ghalta and a 1 of Goreclaw, and I wouldn't be against that. Makes this also look like this a Sarkhan. I mean, this format I think is a lot more wide open than people understand. I mean, of course, I think mono red is going to be the default. 4 out of 5 of the games that I played were against mono red, and then the 5th one was a deck of, like I said, that was specifically beat to built mono red. And so like that's what it's called a meta game right there, is you play the number 1 deck, you play the deck that beats the number 1 deck, or you play the deck that beats, if you can beat A and B decks, then of course play that deck. But like in this case, this ElfBall absolutely destroys mono white. And I mean, it's very, very easy. That just goes over the top of mono white. They have no chance of keeping up with the card advantage that this deck provides. And it does a very good job against the mono red decks too, because you do also tend to be a little bit quicker than when they're going off. Now, of course, I think mono red, people are preferring it because it does have the god draws of just doing 20 damage very, very quickly. I'm also thinking that people are going to start playing cards like the gain 3 life and draw card, as well as the gain 4 life and draw card out of white. Both of those I think are pretty good to cascade into each other, and you can just keep the card advantage up and keep the life up, and then you can actually go into board wipes or other cards, like, or just at that point just get into something like Lyra and Chalet, and then it's pretty tough for the mono red to win. So I'm sure that people are going to try to go that strategy, and ElfBall is very good against like Lyra and I mean just the Angels. Angel type strategy. I could even see Boros in this particular format because I mean this is a big mana format. You can get like Resplendent Angel. These all like curve really well off each other, like Chalet into Resplendent Angel's pretty good, Lyra into Chalet, and then you can run the gain life cards in here as well, like like Dawn of Hope is okay, but you can run the Revitalize as a huge as a 4 of as well. Then like Resplendent Angel and Revitalize isn't that bad, I guess. I mean, you're gaining life and drawing a card. Even Inspiring Cleric is not bad in this format, to go Inspiring Cleric and then to Revitalize. I mean, that's 7 life. At that point, the red decks are going to have a hard time coming back. And then even Ritual of Rejuvenation. Ritual of Rejuvenation can hit some pretty good cards too. And so I'm sure Boros Angels is pretty good. At that point you can even have like Justice Strikes and the other one that gains 3 life and does 3 damage to a creature. That's a pretty good one too. We'll have to try Boros out. But again, all of these I'm identifying that it looks like this ElfBall strategy is very, very well against all of those. Of course, there could be some higher things up that people could run. People could even go the Wild Growth Walker. That seems to be like a deck that performs quite well. Because this is the way Jadelight Ranger works too. Jadelight Ranger can cascade into Wild Growth Walker. Wild Growth Walker will then be cast, and then the Ranger will hit, and then you'll gain life. So again, I think it's just the early stages that everyone thinks that mono red is just unbeatable because of how Cascade is just so quick. But I'm assuming that just the old Wild Growth Walker decks will come back. That one might be a little bit tricky for this ElfBall strategy, but I don't know. I think it's pretty evenly matched up at that point. Gift of Paradise is another card that I definitely want to try in this deck because you can go turn 1 elf into turn 2 Gift of Paradise. Seems like a pretty strong play, and then the Gift of Paradise can cascade into something else, and then you have a lot of mana to then ramp towards something. Like, I even think like Star of Extinction decks could be a thing. Star of Extinction kill a land, then it cascades into another thing that can kill a land. If you can keep your opponent off of lands, it's something that it's a viable strategy in this type of format, especially with people keeping their curve really, really low. Even at that point, Palaka Worm gaining 7 life, cascading into something else. There's a lot of options I think are in this type of format, and we'll play the death out of it until we kind of get sick of it. Tristani could be another card you could run in this deck just because it's another Lord over something like Radiant Destiny. I think that 5 mana is a little, not as much as I want it to be. I mean, Radiant Destiny is something that can cascade off Sumala Woodshaper, or you can find it. So I think it's just slightly better at that point. But Tristani is another one that could be a Lord. I even thought about the Assure to assemble. This one seems nifty in this deck, as it can protect something with +1/+1 and indestructible, and still cascade into like a Pelt Collector or a Llanowar Elf. And then the assemble is really good too. Just create 3 white elf night creature tokens. So if they have a Clancaller out that's 9 power on board and it's instant speed to create those, there are tons of options that can go in this. Camaraderie is another one that I thought of putting just a 1-of in to gain some life against these red decks. You could even go like Centaur Peacemaker or the Knight of Autumn for the option to gain life. Destroying artifacts and enchantments is probably relevant in this format. And yeah, I mean, these will put you over the top against that deck as well. So red is definitely not unbeatable. Camaraderie is kind of cool, as you gain X life, draw X cards where X number of creatures you control, and then creatures get +1/+1. It's kind of what this deck wants to be doing, because you're going to be flooding out, and then you do need some residual card draw. But I think Beast Whisper does the better job at doing that. So tons and tons and tons of options for this particular archetype. So anyway, let's finish did we go down the entire list here? Marwyn is a 4-of just to get the most out of ElfBall strategy. This is ElfBall 101 is running a Marwyn. Then you can add a ton of mana, and then you can chain with Beast Whisper. Steely Champion is just your very aggressive card. It's going to be usually a 6 power in this deck. It's just going to go crazy and put your opponent, they have to start dealing with it. So if they're a low removal based deck, or if they're like mono red, Steely Champion a lot of times eats 2 spells against mono red. Mono red starts to fizzle out. That's what I've noticed versus this deck. And then Beast Whisper is your draw. Sumala Woodshaper is card advantage because it allows you to cascade into a 3-drop as well as draw a card. And this, I think the Sumala Woodshaper is definitely good in this deck. I'm also playing a 1 of Immortal Sun, just in case I need some more card draw against control. I think this is really, really powerful, with Planeswalkers not being able to activate their abilities, as well as then you can draw an additional card and creatures get +1. This Inspiring Commander is another one that I thought is okay, but it's a non-bow with a bunch of the cards in the deck. Whenever another creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield, you gain a life and draw a card. Again, I think that these are, you probably go like not an ElfBall strategy. Like if you're in the life gain strategy, don't ignore this card. It's one that's exclusive to Arena, and if you can get up to the 6 mana, it'll just make you go crazy. It'll cascade, and then the next couple turns you're just going to start drawing a lot of cards for all of your littler creatures coming in. So white does look promising, but again, I really think that ElfBall is the way to go at the moment with this particular format, as it just seems to go over the top. And again, if that means putting in Glorclaw and Galta, I think that we have a ton of options. Song of Freyalise actually looks pretty cool too to ElfBall out, but yeah, I don't think it's necessary. But yeah, I don't know. Emmara just seems to work better with, I think we might want a little bit higher of a curve. I think I might just go down 1 and put 1 Goreclaw right now and call that good. See how well Goreclaw, we'll test it out and see if it works in this. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this. We're not going to play any matchups with this because I have to, as you see, I just got called by the boss and probably have to head down to the store. But anyway, we'll try to stream this and play some more of these type of decks. Like I said, Land Destruction looks cool. Sarkhan's Unsealing looks really, really fun to play with like a Goreclaw. And, I mean, all you have to do is get Sarkhan's Unsealing out, and then it starts to clear the board, and then you can play a lot of these bigger life gain cards like Palaka Worm, or I'm sure there's other ways to gain life. Very, very good, and I'm sure that we're going to start seeing more of a meta once these red decks start to realize that they're not infallible, that they have huge holes to life gain. The life gain starts to I mean, it's definitely going to keep any sort of control deck in check, though. Speaking of a control deck, black-white, I think with the what's the card where they discard a card and you gain a life and they mill a card? Seems pretty fun to play with So Vicious Rumors seems pretty fun. in this particular strategy too, because this format is very, very good. Like, you want to rip cards out of your opponent's hand because every card is worth 2 cards. And so Vicious Rumors is insanely good for that reason. And I could even see like some sort of discard strategy working with it. The gaining the life, and then the Mnemonic Betrayal. Like, you could just run this and have Mnemonic Betrayal be the win condition. We'll look at that as well. Anyway, now I've got really, really rambly. I'm going to end this here. This has been Kevin with Rogue Deck Builder. Thanks for watching.